You're listening to The Health of Business, where we talk openly and honestly about what it takes to run a healthcare clinic business in BC and Canada today. I'm Danielle Boyd, and I'm glad you're here. Audriana, welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the Health of Business podcast. I am super excited to dive into the topic this week because it's a little different. It's a little fun. It's a little new. It's like, yeah, it's a little different for the physio world. So I'm really keen and super pumped. So welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm also super pumped. I'm a little nervous, but I'll do my best.
I love it. I love it. We name our feelings here. It's great. I always feel nervous. Like I think this will be like my 25th or 26th recording now. And I always feel that like jittery, like fun, kind of like, yeah, excited, nervous feeling before any interview. Yeah. So it's great. It's great. It provides great energy. I hope anyway.
Totally. Yeah.
Amazing. So I would love to have you just introduce yourself and kind of your trajectory and career in the physio world for anyone who's listening, just to kind of get to know you a little bit and for me to get to know you too.
Yeah, definitely. I'll try and be succinct, but basically when I graduated from physiotherapy school, I always thought I wanted to go into pediatrics and did some pediatric placements in school. That was kind of like, yes, that's what I want to be in. But of course, new grad, you just kind of take whatever job you can get. So worked in typical private practice to start. About 6 months in, I did get a pediatric job. So I was doing that part-time along with private practice. And for both of them, I was realizing it just wasn't bringing me as much joy as I thought they were going to be bringing me. I think private practice, like the super fast pace, go, 30-minute back to back, just felt super overwhelming. And then, yeah, pediatrics, it was really fun, but it was also exhausting. And I didn't think it would be that exhausting. And I just kind of felt like, if I want a family of my own one day, I don't know if I can work with kids all day and have a kid of my own. So I was talking to one of the front desk people at my work, kind of expressing all this with her. And she was like, I'm actually thinking of quitting and joining my friend who's starting up a physio kind of business. So would you be interested in talking to them? I said, sure. And that company, when I went to talk to them, they had mentioned, well, we're going to be starting this like pain program for veterans, but you don't have to be involved. The other physio can do it. Like you can do, the typical physiotherapy clinic stuff. And I was like, sure, didn't really think much of it, but then started to kind of work in that chronic pain setting and absolutely loved it. And I did do a chronic pain, what's the word I'm looking for? Elective in physiotherapy school. Like there was a few courses you could just kind of take extra. And I did enjoy it, but I just didn't think it would be something that I'd go into. And then, yeah, just absolutely fell in love. I love the aspect of biopsychosocial model is like really brought into chronic pain. And I always joke that I should have been an OT or a counselor because I just love the talking and education piece of physio, but I also love movement. So you do get both with physio. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I ended up. And unfortunately, that company disintegrated, but I now work at a pain clinic part-time. And then along with that, I also found that, as I mentioned, like the typical clinic model just wasn't really what I was looking for. And this pain clinic's a little bit different. And I love being creative. And I was finding that the way for me to be creative was to put stuff out online. And so a part of my business now is doing a lot of online content that brings together chronic pain. It brings together yoga, it brings together trauma-informed care. And yeah, that's kind of where I am now.
Amazing. I love it. And I resonate so much with your story too. Like I, built this career like very much in the nervous system world and enjoyed it, but can't say I loved it because I found myself like energetically. It's just so demanding working with patients. And I found myself like looking for an outlet as well. So I totally relate to like the online, like trying other different areas just to like dabble. And I mean, obviously this podcast was born of that too, right? So I get it. I feel like there's not a lot of creative outlets in physio when you're working with patients. And I mean, maybe that's not true. Maybe there's a lot of like unique courses and stuff you can take that allow certain people to express their creativity there. But yeah, like you, I like the talking, I like the education, I like this part of it. So I resonate a lot with that. Thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. So I'm curious, you mentioned the biopsychosocial model, but what other aspects of chronic pain or like the style of work that you were working in chronic pain were the really attractive pieces of it for you? What helped, like what was like the thing you loved about it?
Ooh, great question. There was a few things, I mean, specific to that company, it was a program. So patients would come for
Mm,
12 weeks and they would come either 3 days a week or 5 days a week, which
yeah.
was really nice. And it was like an hour and a half a day. So you really got to know the people.
Mm,
Yeah, you were just with them day in, day out for 12 weeks, which was super amazing. You could really see the growth from start to finish. So that part, which isn't necessarily chronic pain specific, you can find that in anytime you're doing a program essentially, but I did really
mhm,
like that. And that it was multidisciplinary as well. We had dietitians, we had OT, we had kins, a whole bunch of stuff. So that was really nice. Chronic pain specifically, I mean, yeah, I think that when you go to a typical physio clinic and you have an acute injury, you're just kind of there and you're thinking, like, yeah, I rolled my ankle. I want to get the exercises. I want something that's going to help me, maybe some manual therapy. It's going to take a couple sessions, anywhere from, 1 or 2 to maybe 10 or 12, depending how severe the person's injury
okay.
is. Like, you see the beginning and end. Whereas with
Yes.
chronic pain, yeah, I kind of like that with chronic pain. I feel like this is maybe a little harsh to say, but there isn't necessarily an end sometimes. Like, you might
Mhm.
not be able to cure this person. And I think it's probably the imposter syndrome that I'm like, with acute injuries, if I can't fix someone, I've failed. Whereas with chronic pain, I'm here to help them along on this journey and to help them gain these tools that might make their pain completely go away, which would be amazing. But also, if it doesn't, it's about a lot more than that. It's not just about making the pain go away, it's looking at how you relate to pain differently. It's looking at the emotional factors, the physical factors, all the different things that go into it. So that's what really kind
That's
of drew me in.
that's so interesting, and it's so true, like, so many of us as physios put so much pressure on ourselves to, like, quote, unquote, "fix" patients, and, I mean, even with the classic sprained ankle, like, there's so much of it that is, a requirement of the patient to do the work or, to learn, or there's so many other aspects of it, but it's so easy for us to be, the harsh, "You have to fix this," like, perfectionism. I know all about that.
Yeah.
So let's chat a bit about, which is like what I really want to chat about today, is building an online business. And I think a lot of physios, a lot of manual therapists, a lot of movement practitioners really have big dreams and goals of starting an online business, but it's really hard, especially when so much of our work is in person, which I mean, in a way is going to be great because when AI takes over, we're all still going to have jobs. Because I don't think AI can replace manual therapy or like good tactile movement cueing. But being able to reach a wider audience or, even have more accessible care. I really, for online work, that for me is the really important thing is usually it can be offered at a slightly lower price point, right? So I want to talk about this as an option for physios, healthcare practitioners, and what the benefits, what the challenges, what the processes are like of building an online business. So I want to hear your story. What is your online business? What does it look like? What platforms are you using? What do you teach? Fill us in on everything.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a smorgasbord of everything. I would not call myself a business person. So you're getting, yeah, the nitty gritty of someone who is like, I do not have business training,
But
but
so
that's
much of
okay.
us figure it out as we go, right? Like
Totally.
that's our
Absolutely.
crash course in business is figuring it out as we go.
Absolutely. And I've learned so much in the past. I think it's been 2.5, maybe 3 years since I've been starting to do this, somewhere around there.
Amazing.
So yeah, basically the accessibility piece was a big thing for me. I did my undergrad in community rehab and disability studies,
Mm,
which was all about how communities essentially stigmatize people with disabilities, or like how
mm,
can we find ways to make things more accessible. And so that's always been something I've been super passionate about and interested in. And so that was the first and the biggest part was
mm.
I have all this education and I want to be able to provide it to people at a larger scale, not just, in British Columbia as a physio, you're stuck with your kind of college guidelines. That's a part of the reason that I became a yoga teacher as well, because you can do that worldwide as well. So that
Yes.
felt really nice to be able to kind of offer that on a larger scale. So that was a big reason why I started was accessibility. The second reason was the creativity aspect. I was looking for
Mm,
something where I felt like I could use this creative energy that I had and just experiment essentially and
mhm.
see what I enjoyed doing and what worked for me. So really what it started out with was Instagram. I just created a physiotherapy Instagram and I started posting about chronic pain. And I did very quickly niche and know like I want to do trauma informed care, I want to do chronic pain, kind of yoga specific, couple little niches all wrapped up into one.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, started on Instagram, just started creating some content and then switched over to YouTube as well and started to make some longer form content, mostly trauma informed yoga, some chronic pain education. That is actually what I love the most is YouTube, I would say. I do like the longer form
Mm.
content,
Mm, mhm.
but all kind of similar things. And then with that as well, I think I just would these ideas would pop in my head and I would think that sounds like a good idea. Let's just do that. So went on to Insight Timer is kind of the other platform I'm on. Those are definitely my big three and started doing some chronic pain meditations and then uploaded a course on there and created another online course about chronic pain as well and just have that on my
Amazing.
website. So those are kind of the biggest things. And yeah, just looking for accessibility, creative outlet for myself, and then that accessibility for other people. I think that's really important when you're thinking about starting any kind of business is this bringing me joy along with is there potential of earning income from this? Because there's been lots of times, and we can talk about my podcast later. I have a
Yeah.
podcast which I've decided to stop. And
Yep.
a part of that is because when I was looking at everything I was doing, that was definitely the one thing that was causing me, I think, more stress than bringing me joy. And
Mm.
those perfectionistic tendencies we've talked about, I kind of felt like, I started something, I have to keep going, I have to finish. And,
Yeah.
I was like, no, you don't. You can just stop this if you want to. And
Yeah,
so
you're in
that's kind of
charge.
where I'm at with that. Exactly. So yeah, Instagram, YouTube, Insight Timer, those are kind of the three biggest things. And then some online kind of courses. That's on Thinkific is the platform I use for that. And then I do
Okay.
have like a little workbook on Etsy, but I wouldn't say that I'm using those platforms a lot. It was just kind of one-offs. Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you like how are you driving clients to your courses, your like, sellable items online? Is that do you find like Instagram is kind of your primary like draw people in and probably YouTube as well? How like what's kind of your like strategy for directing people to the courses and to like the things that they can purchase?
Yeah, definitely YouTube and Instagram. So if I'm creating content, not every time I create content, but oftentimes I'm kind of saying, like, if you want to dive further, here's my course. The typical thing
Mm,
that you would see online. Yeah.
yeah.
I did recently get my website redone. And I actually feel like that's driven a lot of people to like book with me in person or like visit my
Yeah.
course and do different things like that. So just the SEO with the website, I think, is doing quite
Mm,
well.
yeah.
So that's really nice. Yeah, and then
That's
Insight
huge.
Timer, I think that's just kind of organic. That one I just kind of let do its thing and it actually
Yeah.
brings me the most money, but yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. Okay, and I definitely want to do a deep dive on Insight Timer because it's one of those platforms that I think a lot of people are not aware of. Everyone wants to focus on like Instagram, YouTube, courses, and yet I'm also on Insight Timer. And it, of all the platforms, like you said, is the one that brings me the most income. And the thing that I notice the most about it is my following on Insight Timer has like probably less than like 1 to 5% overlap with my following anywhere else. It's completely organic. It's like I don't have to do any work. All I do is upload content and it's searchable and it's evergreen. It's not like YouTube where it feels like you have to be putting content on, a yearly basis. Like I find Insight Timer, it's really funny. I have this one meditation that I put up years ago and it was kind of like trucking along. And then all of a sudden now it's like generating so many more listens. Like I put it up there maybe 3 or 4 years ago and it kind of like did this, but it's like exponentially getting more and more. And it's wild because it's an old piece of content that's continuing to produce. So, yeah, tell me more about your experience with Insight Timer because I am obsessed with it. And I hardly ever talk about it on Instagram or anything else because it's doing the work for me. I don't have to.
100%. I feel the same way. Definitely. I think it's my lowest amount of following, but it's the thing
Yeah.
that's generating the most revenue. And it's interesting you say that too. It kind of seems I would love to know more about their algorithm because it does seem a little bit like YouTube in the sense that with YouTube as well, like the content is somewhat evergreen compared to Instagram. Someone can search chronic pain yoga and my stuff could pop up that I put up 5 years ago. It just depends
Yeah.
on how popular it is essentially. And I think Insight Timer maybe works the same way, but it is interesting because I have some of the somatic tracking things that I have on YouTube. I also have on Insight Timer and it gets way more views on Insight Timer than it does on YouTube. So it is interesting that it does that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and I
yeah,
guess they
I
have
just
a
think it's great.
hold. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think they have a hold on the market as well, like, people who are interested in that content would gravitate towards Insight Timer, like, I think they have their audience really is, the audience that would be interested in meditation and somatic movement and things like that, I guess, but yeah, it's absolutely wild. Yeah, actually, what I would love is if you could actually just describe what Insight Timer even is, like, what is it as an app? Because, yeah, we're talking about it here and I'm
Yeah.
realizing people might not even know what it is.
Totally, yeah. So I think it started out essentially as a meditation app where people would
Yeah.
upload their meditations, different teachers, meditation teachers, yoga teachers, etc. And that was probably years and years ago that it started as that. And it has definitely evolved. Now I know they have like a therapy hub where if you're a
Yeah.
therapist, you can actually be, I think, getting clients in through that. They've just recently going to start videos as well, which is really nice because I can transfer my kind of YouTube videos to
Yes.
Insight Timer. But yeah, it's really just like a meditation app, and they have free meditations for anyone. You don't have to pay for the app at all. And then they have
Mhm.
a plus section where you have to pay for the app to get these plus meditations and also courses. So people can put audio courses up there. Same thing, you have to pay for that. And so, as someone who is on Insight Timer getting, as like a teacher, getting revenue from it, you earn a certain amount of income from the free ones, and then you're going to earn more from the plus tracks and the courses.
Mhm. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I can't say enough good stuff about it. That said, they have changed things. Like, the video piece was interesting to me because I remember when they first emailed and said, "Oh, we're now introducing video." I was initially like, "Oh my gosh, now I have to create video content for it." And then I was like, "Oh, I have a whole bunch of video content I can already, like, transfer over. What am I thinking?" Like, I have video course like, I was like initially, I was like, "Ugh, like, I have to create more," and we'll talk about the, like, grind of creating content, but it was like, "Ugh." And then I was like, "Oh, actually, I
Yeah.
have stuff and it's already converting." So, yeah, I guess for physios and therapists and other healthcare practitioners, it's actually probably an incredible platform for them to explore in terms of content creation because there's people are already in that world, right? Like they're already kind of looking for, therapeutic type modalities from it. So, yeah, it's really interesting. Tell me a bit more about your YouTube channel because I mean, we've talked a bit about Insight Timer now. How long have you been doing it? Are you consistent with your uploads? Like, what does that look like on YouTube?
Yes. So YouTube, I think I started in October of 2023.
Okay.
So 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think I've missed an upload. I upload once a week. There's this
Oh.
perfectionism coming in. I'm like, I must do it once a week. Yeah, I don't think I miss an upload, but once a week I'll do a long form content. My shorts are just very sporadic. Sometimes
Mm,
if my Instagram reel matches, because my niche on YouTube is actually a little bit different than my Instagram niche, I would say. And I'm
mm,
I'm trying to make them a little more aligned business wise.
yeah.
But my YouTube is primarily trauma informed yoga, I would say is 90% of what I put up on YouTube. And then another 10% is more chronic pain education. Whereas
Mm,
my Instagram is kind of the opposite. I would say it's 90% chronic pain education, maybe 10% trauma informed yoga. So I'm trying to meld them a little
interesting.
bit better. Yeah, so if my shorts or my reels kind of interact together, I'll put them together. Otherwise, I won't. But yeah, that long form content once a week, I'll put up a usually trauma informed yoga. Sometimes it's chronic pain education, and with the trauma informed yoga, it is usually a little bit more of a gentle practice. So it's something that might cater towards chronic pain or like
Mm,
Ehlers-Danlos or
yeah.
arthritis, like things that are a little more gentle. There's the odd time where I will kind of jump out of the niche a little bit and just see how something performs. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of typically what I'm going for, or a little more mental health focused, like stress reduction,
Mm.
things like that. Mhm.
Interesting. And do you find how has your follower count grown on YouTube over the 2.5 years? Because from what I understand, it's often that first couple of years is just such a slog trying to get content on there. And then it kind of exponentially grows. And then usually you hit exit velocity and it takes off is what my understanding is. But yeah, what's your experience been like with it?
Yeah, I would say it's been pretty slow and steady. I'm waiting for the like velocity hit, rocket ship. Let's go.
Me
I
too.
think I'm around a little bit over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube right now, which is really nice. I'm
Amazing. Yeah.
almost at like my monetization hours for memberships, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's been pretty slow and steady, which is really nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was, like, slow at first. I do find my shorts often will get more views and
Yes.
potentially bring me in more subscribers, but I don't
Mm,
know if it's translating to people staying in the long form content. I'd have to look a little
mm,
bit more at my YouTube studio to figure out those analytics better, but
yeah.
yeah, there's definitely, like, a few loyal people who always kinda leave comments and show up, and I interact with them. But yeah, it's definitely the thing that brings me the most joy and the thing that,
Yes.
like, creatively I enjoy the most. I honestly feel like even if I had 10 subscribers, I would still probably be putting out content weekly, so Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So it's a labor of love, absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm.
So how many hours, like, let's say in a week, are you contributing to your content creation? Like, I mean, and how often are you contributing to Insight Timer as well? Like, what does Insight Timer look like in
Mm.
terms of content? And then, yeah, what does a week look like in terms of content creation?
Yeah. Insight timer, there's no plan. It's just when the when it comes in my brain, I will create a meditation, I'll put it on Insight timer. There is no rhyme or reason to that one. I'm just letting that one be its thing. That one just goes.
Me too, actually.
But
That's completely my strategy there as well. Yeah.
yeah. But yes, Instagram, I was spending a lot of time last year. So last year I had my Instagram, which I was at least uploading 3 times a week, maybe
Wow.
4.
Yeah.
YouTube, I was doing once a week for sure. And then my podcast, I was doing once a week. So last year,
Wow.
weekly, and I work, at this pain clinic. I have another
Yeah.
job too. I'm probably putting in like 25-ish hours of work actually doing in-person physio work. And then I was probably
Yeah.
putting another 10 to 15 hours a week on this online, like on all my online stuff.
Wow. Wow.
And I was realizing near the end of 2025, like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. This is
Wow.
like, I'm just doing this because I feel like I have to do it. I need to stay in the grind. I need to like be relevant. And
Yeah.
I just like don't care. And also, I just have such a push and pull with social media because I,
Yeah.
on one hand, love it. I love that we can bring free information to people, that you can connect, like the hilarious animal memes and reels, like, love them. But on the other hand, I go on and I'm watching these reels or these things, and I'm like, there's so much misinformation in what this person's saying. And like, I don't want to contribute to that. And I'm getting sucked into these
Yeah.
things and I'm noticing my body doesn't feel good. So it just feels like such a push and pull to be an online creator. And yeah, I just kind of felt like at the end of 2025, like, this isn't bringing me joy anymore. And I want my online business to be something that brings me joy. Of
Yeah.
course, I want it to generate revenue, but more than that, I want it to be a creative outlet for me. And
Mm.
so now I would say I'm probably spending like 5 to 5-ish hours a week on online content compared
Wow.
to like the 10 to 15 I was doing last year. And before we kind of started recording, I was mentioning to you that I've had these like very random serendipitous things come in for me to like potentially generate revenue. And I'm like, this is so interesting the way the universe works, that
Yeah.
I'm choosing something that brings me more joy and like makes my nervous system feel good and spending less time on it. And then I'm getting these random opportunities that I did not get at all last year. So
I
yeah.
love it. Creating space, really. Like, it's about creating
Mhm.
space for those types of opportunities. So, yeah, I look forward to hearing more about like these opportunities that are coming forward. Can you share anything about like what sorts of things have come your way, or are they still kind of in like secret creation mode?
One of them should be coming out in April, I believe, which is like the most exciting one for me. Basically, yeah, like an online platform reached out to me to license some YouTube stuff, which is really cool. So hopefully that'll
Yes.
actually happen
Congrats.
in April. Yeah, thanks. And then the other stuff is just random. Like my my cousin was like, her dad has a skincare company, and she was like, "Do you want to be a brand ambassador and like affiliate and generate revenue from this stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, sounds great." And then
Oh,
I went and figured that out and realized I had another like brand that I was already involved in that was a yoga brand, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what the heck?" So yeah, just like these
amazing.
random things that I just wasn't expecting, but yeah.
So good. But yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
Like, when we create the space for those opportunities, they will present themselves. So good for you. And good for you for doing that, right? Like, it's so easy to be like, oh, I need to do this. And then like we just keep grinding. Um, okay, so I want to chat about the podcast because you've obviously made some
Mhm.
big decisions and changes here. Tell me about your journey to starting the podcast, why you started it, what the topic was, and kind of the where it's at now and what's happening with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I started the podcast was it April of last year or the year before? Sometime in the
Mm.
spring. I think I've done 80 episodes, so over a year because I usually
Wow.
release one a week. Because once again,
That's a
I'm like, I
lot.
start something I'm doing weekly, like,
And we
gotta
stay
keep it going.
consistent and yes.
Yeah, yeah, I did take some week breaks in between, but anyway, yeah, the reason I started the podcast was the same reason I started everything. I wanted accessible information for people. So
Mm,
the podcast is called Health Empowered, and it's basically just bringing health information, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. I didn't want it to be like just physio specific.
mm,
I thought about doing a chronic pain specific podcast, but
yeah.
I was like, no, this one will just be a little bit different. So yeah, just health information. I interviewed all different kinds of practitioners on different healthcare topics. Sometimes I was just interviewing like regular people going through healthcare experiences so they could share their stories essentially.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was really fun. I really enjoyed doing it. I think it was the thing that definitely was the most work because I'm
Yeah.
recording and then I'm editing. As you know, with the podcast, like you're doing
Yep.
all the editing and stuff too. And, I kept the interviews to 30 minutes, so not as much editing as an hour-long podcast episode, but yeah, it was really fun, but I was just noticing that I am someone who really values evidence-based care, and it
Mm,
was just really hard for me to actually make sure that the guests I were having on were speaking facts about healthcare, especially when it isn't my niche. Like, if we were talking
yes.
chronic pain, I can kind of fact check people and be like, actually, I don't think the research says that." But when people are on there
Mm,
talking about, like, prenatal acupuncture or mental health stuff. Like, I'm not in that realm. I can't really fact check people. And so I just
mm,
felt like in order for me to do a good job, I would have had to been spending even more time actually like researching the topics and making sure people are
yeah.
giving information that's going to help people. And I know
Yeah.
there's nuance to that. I know obviously like there's some things we can't provide evidence for. Maybe the evidence just isn't out there yet, but I just didn't want to be also contributing to the platforms where I'm seeing online and I'm seeing these interviews and I'm like, that's not true. Like no
Oh.
one, and then I just really, really dislike when people who are struggling are preyed upon by consumerism or like, people just trying to make money off of them. And I would not that I think the guests on my podcast were doing that whatsoever, but it's just something I wanted to make sure that people weren't like pulled into something that wasn't true. And then they're doing all these things or spending all this
Yeah.
money on something that's not going to work for them. So that was probably the biggest reason I decided, you know what, if I don't have the time to really like feel good about this and fact check and have all the
Yeah.
information, I don't want to be putting the content out there. There's already a million other podcasts out there that could be doing the same thing I'm doing. So that was the biggest
Yeah.
reason I stopped. And then the other reason was because it was the thing that was using the most amount of time for the least amount of joy for me.
Good for you. I think,
Mm.
it's so easy to just like double down and keep going and be like, it's fine. Like, I will just do the work and I will fact check and like add to the list and then just get like burnt out and resentful and all the things. So good for you for doing that and like recognizing, okay, here's my like, here's my setup. I'm doing YouTube, I've got Instagram, I've got Insight Timer, I've got a podcast. I'm feeling myself getting to the point of burnout or like feeling like it's costing too much time. And then just selecting the one that you're like, this is one bringing me the least amount of joy and it's the most amount of work or, like for whatever reasons. And, making that decision, like that's good for you. I'm like,
Thanks.
it's a lot, and I can absolutely relate, like, a podcast is a lot of work. I do have to say, like, using the platform I use, Riverside, it's excellent. There's lots of AI tools that do the editing and make it really easy. Um, but, even just, like, adding the intro and the outro and, like, if you wanna do a, like, extra little read about a course or something, like, it's so much work. Like, I absolutely agree with you, and for me, it's the labor of love. It's the thing that I'm like, like you said about YouTube, like, I love doing it. I love chatting with people like yourself. Like, I do absolutely love doing it. So, for me, it's something I'm probably just gonna continue to do because I absolutely love it, whether or not it's, actually providing value to people. It's certainly
Which,
not
we
providing
need
revenue,
that.
but we do, and it is my creative outlet, and, like, for me, when
Totally.
I decided to do a podcast, I was like, "Okay, I could do a YouTube channel, I could do this, I could do that," and for me, it's my primary because I felt I do the best when I'm kind of speaking off the cuff. Like, obviously, I kind of create a conversation skeleton and the things I want to talk about with a guest because I want to maximize picking their brain and getting their information. But I find, for me, like I just can do the best when I'm off the cuff like this. Like I can kind of, I'm not when I'm way more structured and like having to follow a script, I'm like, not quite as, like, on it. So for me, yeah, the podcast was the one that, like, I just get the most out of and can be myself the most and just perform the best, and it's the best creative outlet for me. But it is super interesting how, you get into it, and I do every other week, so I release every other week. I initially thought I was gonna do every week, and I'm so glad I went to every other week because I'm not perfect. Like, I've had weeks where I've just been like, "I can't get to it this week," and I will just delay it by a week, and then I'm, off my schedule, and I've really had to learn to manage that perfectionism with it because it's like, if I'm not on the every 2 week, it's like, "Oh, I feel like I need to get things out there," and then meanwhile, I'm like, no one is going to be, like, phoning me or emailing me like, "Danielle, you didn't get your podcast out this week." Right? So, anyway, long-winded way of saying, like, it's a lot of work, and yes, it's a labor of love, and you do have to be picky and select the things that are bringing you the most joy and also the most revenue.
Totally. And I mean, with the podcast too, I think it was also the most unpredictable one because, like you said, like you're
Oh, yes.
relying on other people as well to
Yes.
show up and be in interviews, and life happens. Sometimes my
Yep.
kid's sick, or I'm sick, or this came up, and so if
Yeah.
I was releasing weekly, and so sometimes things like that happen, and I'm like, oh gosh, okay, well, good thing I have this one recorded from last week. I'll switch this around here, and you're just kind of, yeah. I was like, this is too stressful for exactly something that like isn't bringing in any revenue, and like it's not like millions of people are listening to it. So yeah.
Totally, right? And yeah, I think that's just it, like, the life happens piece, like, it happens, like, for the host as well, so sometimes, like, I had to cancel or, like, rebook a couple in the fall. I just had a few things going on in the fall that I was like, "I'm not able to just, like, produce on time," and, like, I was like there was just a lot happening, and so I felt terrible having to be the one to reschedule because that's, like, not like, I really struggle with that, and I was like at the end of the day, I was like, "Hold on a minute. It's a podcast that I offer. It's a free thing. It's a" like, I was like, "Why am I so like yeah, and I had an episode that I recorded early on. I got a new computer because I like the recording capacity of my old computer it was, like, super old. It was just not good, and the, like, kicker for me is I recorded a podcast episode with someone, and the speed of my computer had us, like it wasn't recording at a good, like, time frame. I'm not exactly sure what it terms, the terminology for that is, but when I went to go edit it, the 2 audio tracks were, like, the timing of them, we were talking over each other, it was terrible, so I couldn't release the podcast, and I felt terrible, so I emailed the guest and I was like, "I'm so sorry," like, tried to reschedule, and then it just, like, never actually came out as an episode, and I was like felt horrible and all of this, and then in the end, I was like, "It's okay, like, we can rebook, life happens," like, it's just so funny how it is such an exercise in managing that perfectionism because
Mhm.
people do take a lot of time out of their day to be a guest on the podcast, and so I really like, it's been a really interesting self-discovery or self-exploration exercise in addition to, obviously the content creation and that piece of it. So I don't know, how do you feel like, have you felt like it was kind of a, like, self-discovery, self-growth management journey for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with everything you just said, agree.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the concept of trauma-informed care and online messaging because obviously this is we're talking about online business and content creation, and right now we see a ton of stuff online about trauma-informed care, the nervous system, and yeah, like there's lots of people who are maybe not in the evidence-based world talking about trauma-informed care, and they are, so-called experts in it. So I would love to hear, what trauma-informed care means to you and yeah, like how you communicate that in your messaging online and yeah, like what it means to you and what other practitioners can take from that.
Yeah, I think from the courses that I've done on trauma informed care, my understanding of it is essentially everything that you're doing in whatever practice, whether it's online or in person or groups, you're just doing your best to not re traumatize individuals,
Mm,
essentially. And so
mhm,
we're really looking at the pillars of giving people choice, making things really kind of fair and open, and yeah, just like trying your best to make sure that whatever you're doing isn't going to re-traumatize someone, cause more anxiety, cause their nervous system to go into fight or flight or whatever it is. And so that's just
mhm,
like a really big overview of it. Obviously, if
mhm,
you're maybe a counselor or you're someone working more in the mental health space, there's probably a lot more that you're going to go deeper into. As a physical therapist, I'm not there to dive into people's trauma with them. Really, what trauma informed care is to me is yeah, I'm going to make sure that in a physical setting, I'm trying my best to have things set up so that like you feel most safe and most comfortable. You have view of the exits. Like, you know exactly what's going to happen in our session. I'm going to lay everything out to you
Mm,
beforehand. So there's a lot of safety. You don't have to be guessing. You don't have to be sitting there nervous, wondering, like, okay, well, what's going to happen today? So,
yeah.
yeah, just like really promoting safety, promoting trust, trying not to re traumatize, promoting a lot of choice for people. And so, I guess in my online platform, I mean, trauma informed yoga is a whole thing in itself where all the language
Mhm,
that you're using is using all of those principles. I'm never going to do an
mhm,
online class and say, like, you have to do this pose. We don't even use the word pose, but like the shape in this way, or you have to do it this certain way. It's just like, no, your body, your choice. You get to do what works best for you. And I try and kind of use that language with everything that I'm using online.
mhm.
So that's kind of my understanding of it. But like I said, if you maybe ask like a counselor who's really diving deep into trauma work with someone, they may have a deeper viewpoint on it.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful. Like the autonomy and the choice and the safety piece really resonate, and that makes perfect sense. Is there like specific training for trauma informed yoga? Like that actually is a specific training? That's so cool. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so what I would love to do, there's the Trauma Center for Trauma Sensitive Yoga, something like that, TCTSY. I don't 100% know the acronym. I would love to do that training, but that one you have to go in person to the States. There's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot. I've done like the intro of that one where
Mm,
it was a weekend course. So that was kind of
mm,
my initial trauma sensitive training. You can't call yourself trauma informed in that course specifically unless you've like
right.
done the whole thing. So
Yes.
yeah, I did the trauma sensitive training. And then there's other ones online that you can do. There's for trauma informed yoga. So I did that one instead. That was
Awesome.
just, I didn't have to go to the States and spend thousands of dollars for weeks at a time,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah, but that
Yes.
one would be like the holy grail of trauma informed courses for sure. Mhm.
Yeah. So what do you see? I mean, obviously online there's so much garbage, for lack of a better term. There's a lot of garbage online. What do you see as like when people present themselves as being, trauma informed or like, experts in that or trauma sensitive? Like, what are some of the common misconceptions or like even mistakes you see people when they use that terminology, perhaps incorrectly?
That's a great question, and I wish that I paid more attention. Like, I have timers on all my social media so that I'm not going on more than, like, 10 minutes a day scrolling, so, like, I don't know what other people are doing online, which is awful from a business perspective because 'cause you're supposed to be keeping up on trends, but I'm like, "You know what? Imma just do my thing and what works for me." But
That's
yeah, I
amazing.
think yeah, it's a wonderful question. I don't know if I have a good answer for it. But, I mean, I think some of the stuff I've maybe seen is yeah, maybe people who are like, I don't want to say just yoga teachers because it does take a level, obviously, of education
Mhm,
and like perseverance to become a yoga teacher. I don't want to minimize that. But I
mhm.
think being a yoga teacher versus having like a master's in social work, you're obviously going to have a way different level of training in something
Yeah,
like trauma and how trauma happens in the body and what's happening in our nervous system versus you're a yoga teacher and you're doing that. So I think the biggest thing I see is maybe people who don't have the education kind of marketing themselves as these people
yeah,
who like understand a lot about trauma or they can like help a lot of people with trauma. So
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing I see. Maybe your marketing is like trauma informed, but you're diving a little bit more into actually like the trauma and trying to heal or help people's trauma. Whereas being trauma informed is just like the overarching
Yeah.
try and give people safety essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I think, yeah, like if I were to even, I mean, to be honest, I haven't done a ton of like trauma sensitive or trauma informed training per se, but yeah, I think there's a lot of people using it as a marketing term who maybe don't actually have the training or the understanding there. So I think, yeah, it's interesting just how much of it you see, and perhaps my algorithm is just very much like nervous system. I follow a lot of clinics, I follow a lot of
Sure.
practitioners, and so yeah, you see a lot of people using that terminology, and I just wonder how deep it actually goes, right?
Totally. It's
Yeah.
funny you say that. I have like my two Instagram accounts, my business one and my normal one. And when I go
Yeah.
on the like for you page or whatever, my normal one is all like heated rivalry, like Liverpool soccer and like I don't even know, so random. And then my physio one is all cats. I'm like, I don't know how the algorithm gave me. I mean, I do love cats, so like that's
Oh my
fair, but it's
gosh.
so funny. I'm like, I'm not seeing this content. It's my algorithm. And like I know too that this year especially we probably won't dive into this because this is a whole other topic, but how kind of like thin has become more of a thing right now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, just like really having this perfect body. And I think there was skinny talk was like a big thing where
Yep.
people are posting a lot about like what I eat in a day and this is what I do for exercise to get thin, all this stuff. And I had a couple of people ask me, I think maybe even on my podcast, like, oh, have you been a part of this algorithm? And I'm like, absolutely not, man. I got cats. Like I'm not seeing any of this. But yeah.
I love it. It is wild though how the algorithm is so agile too, right? Like my partner and I actually just got home. We spent 7 weeks in Asia, which was like absolutely incredible,
Amazing.
amazing opportunity. And it was so funny because it was like I think between like knowing where we were and like we were traveling around Thailand and it was literally like you were on a specific island and then the algorithm was like here's what to do on Koh Tao. And then we moved and it was like, here's what to do on Koh Lanta. And then we got to Japan and it was like, here are 7 things to do in Shinjuku. And then we got home and it was like, oh, here's like what it feels like to come home from Japan. And we were like, what? This is like wild to me. And you Google or like you search for one thing and then your whole algorithm becomes that thing. Like it is so scary and so crazy. And you're right. Like you click on one of those things and it's like this celebrity's lost weight. And you like look at one of those things and now your whole thing is like, do you want Ozempic?
Yeah.
You're like,
It's a big jump.
yeah, like it's absolutely crazy. So
Mhm.
not a lot of trauma informed algorithms coming
No,
at
no, they don't care about
us.
that. They wanna get you doing the other stuff. My phone's beside me right now. We're gonna get off this call. I'm gonna have all this, like, trauma-informed stuff. It's gonna be nice.
Totally, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
probably listening to us right now, and it'll have all that yeah, no, 100%. Like, it is really wild, and unfortunately, like, I find if we're creating content that, maybe has more value in the, the business world or the, the trauma-informed world, like, the people that we're actually trying to target and provide valuable information to are being hijacked by these things too, right? Like, we
Mhm.
are competing as content creators with, like, the garbage stuff that's out there. Like, look at this celebrity, like the skinny talk stuff. And because it is so, controversial or, like emotionally evoking, that's what people are gravitating towards. And so, here we are like trying to swim upstream to give good,
Mhm.
valuable, trauma informed information in some cases. And like that's what we're competing against. And it's really, really challenging, especially on Instagram. Like and TikTok. And I know you're not on TikTok, correct?
No. I refuse.
And never will be.
Never.
Me either. Me either. It's just
No.
another platform. It's another brain
Yeah.
hijacking platform, and I don't feel
Yeah.
like I want to create content for it and compete with those types of algorithms for the same reasons, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't want that. No, I absolutely get that.
Yeah. Yeah, final kind of thought on this because I everything you're saying is so true, and I think as a content creator, it's so hard to not get discouraged because you are,
Yeah.
like, seeing people using all this language and, like, "Do this to get really
Yes.
strong. Do these 5 exercises that'll cure your back pain." And as someone who is really values, like, nuance and evidence-based care and, like, knowing that this is clickbait to get you to click on something, it's so hard to yeah, just kinda, like, stay grounded, I guess, in, like, my beliefs because it's
Mhm.
so easy to be like, "I could just change my title. I could make it more clickbaity." And
Totally.
I don't wanna be that kinda creator. I want to stay with, like, what I value and what's important to me, and I think that is really important as a content creator. Like I said, I was spending so much more time scrolling on social media, trying to find things, like, 15 hours a week just researching and editing and doing all the stuff, and I was just like, "This isn't bringing me joy. This isn't what I wanna be spending with my time," and now I'm spending, 5 to 8, and my following is growing up like, it's going up the same amount. I'm making the same amount of money,
Wow.
if not more. And so I think it's just like
Wow.
important to know as creators, like if this is something you're looking at for longevity or as a business that you want to do for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, yes, we have to pay attention to algorithms and what's working, but we also need to pay attention to what works for our body and our mind and
Mhm.
like our lifestyle at the same
And
time.
that's such a good point on integrity as well, because it's so easy to just jump on trends and trend hop and, grow that way. But I don't think your audience will be the authentic and integral audience that you actually, want to serve if we're just doing that, right? So creating
Mhm.
from integrity, I think might be a slower burn where there's more discouragement and yes, more, content to compete with. But yeah, I think what you're doing in staying in integrity with that is building a more authentic audience, like an audience that actually values you and sees you and wants to buy your content. Like, I think
Mhm.
yeah. Do you find,
Yeah.
like I mean, obviously, like like we said, it's challenging and can be discouraging, but you said your YouTube channel, for example, like, you have your faithful, like, people that are there and showing up every day, and you might not have that same level of devotion if yeah, it's just trend hopping.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, yeah, I really want to kind of zoom out and just see how you would, if you were starting again, if you were,
Mm.
back in October 2023, I think you said it was, is there anything you would do differently? Or let's say there was someone that came to you and was like, I'm thinking of like starting an online business. Um, yeah, what would you say? How, or would you do things differently?
I would say get a time machine and go back to 2020 when everyone was stuck at home and start your platform then because it probably would have taken off. Um,
Totally.
that's what I wish. I wish I started back in 2020. Would I do anything differently? I think I probably would have researched a little more to start. Like, I am someone who is quite type A and like do like
Mm,
to research and like get really organized before doing something. And this is kind of one time in my life where I didn't really do that. I was just like, I want to create content. Let's just throw everything at the wall and see what happens. And I do think that's a great way of learning because you can kind of see what you like, what you don't like what is aligning with your followers and whatnot.
mm,
But at the same time, maybe spending some more time to understand like, okay, this is how YouTube works and the
yeah.
algorithm and like how people are putting content up. This is kind of Instagram. This is how this works. I would maybe have gone further into research on that. That's just something I've kind of like done throughout the years. But yeah,
Mhm,
maybe
mhm.
maybe done a little bit more research beforehand.
Yeah.
And then yeah, anyone else who's wanting to start, I would say like yeah, choose something that you are going to enjoy doing and you think you're going to
Mhm.
be enjoying for the long term. Also, choose something that you could talk about for hours or like you have the education on so that you're not going to run out of content. But on the other spectrum of that, especially when you're kind of first starting, I mean, you could do this in two ways. Once you have a really established niche, you can start to explore a little bit and like bring in different styles of videos that
Mm,
maybe kind of relate to your niche but are a different way of doing it or like totally the same style of video you would do, but a different niche, like kind of playing around
mm.
with different things to see what lands and what you also really enjoy so that you don't feel like I'm just siloed into like, I just have to do this one thing. Yeah.
Totally, totally. I think yeah, and I like, my understanding too is, like, to start niched and then kind of, like, expand out is a nice way to do that because you'll get those, like, 1,000 true fans in your niche, and then you might be able to, like, expand and grow from there.
hmm
I'm not sure if that's something that you've experienced as well.
Yeah, like typically I do trauma informed yoga. That's like 90% of what my YouTube is, but
Mhm.
I'll sometimes throw like a chronic pain education or like a Q&A or something
Yeah.
random that yeah, it might not perform as well. Sometimes it does. I think I did a Q&A and it got like the most comments I ever get on videos, which was kind of fun. So yeah, it's just fun. Like don't be afraid to explore. Don't feel like
Yeah.
I have to stick to this algorithm otherwise like all my followers are going to leave and it's going to be the end of the world and everything's going to change. I think if you're like really stuck and you are lacking that creativity and you're just feeling like everything is a drag and like, oh, maybe I don't even want to do this at all, a better opportunity might be to just like try something new for a week or two and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right? Mix it up. Um we talked a little bit about like, I know we're kind of winding up here, but I do want to talk about the accessibility piece when it comes to this. We mentioned it at the beginning, but I think one of the really major benefits of working online is improving accessibility to incredible, knowledgeable people like yourself, right? Like having these online courses or the meditations or the YouTube channel really opens up accessibility to quality movement, quality education for people who may not have the funds or the geographic location to work with you in person, right? So, yeah, any thoughts on the accessibility piece?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you just said. Love that while being online, you can provide so much more kind of care for people
Mhm.
that exactly like might not be able to afford it, or especially with chronic pain. Like a lot of people are maybe on long term disability. They don't have the funds to be seeing physio once a month or once a week or however often they're going, or
Yeah.
they're like really fatigued or in a lot of pain and they don't really want to leave their house if they don't have to. So
Yeah.
for me, it's really nice that I can offer this online where people can do things from the comfort of their home and it's, shorter, more
Yeah.
accessible essentially. Yeah, and then, my course too, it was basically when I created my course, it was everything that I found I was just repeating over and over again to clients at the pain clinic and kind of like using all these different techniques and I was just like, why don't I just create this online in
Yeah.
something you can do on your own and it's way cheaper than coming to see me like 5 or 6 times. You just kind of
Yeah.
get it all in one course and here you go. And of course you don't get like the in person where you could be asking questions and I could be answering, but it's still really great information that's more accessible.
Totally. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I put a bunch of videos that were just like general nervous system education on YouTube several years ago. And it was like, what is the anatomy of the nervous system? It was like brain, spinal cord, cranial nerves, and like just really basic stuff. Cause I was like, I did so much work on the nervous system in person, but I was like, I want people to understand this, but I don't want to spend 15 minutes of our valuable hour together repeating the same thing over and over again. So oftentimes what I would do is after my initial assessment, I'd be like, your homework is to go home and watch this YouTube video.
Nice.
Because then they would come back and be like, "Oh, I understand these terms that you're talking about," or at least have a little bit more of that knowledge base so that we could like speak the same language at a certain level. So, yeah, I found it's the same that's like such a great prompt for people if they want to start creating content is the things that you're constantly explaining over and over again are actually really great education pieces that you can move over to a YouTube or an Insight Timer or Instagram or wherever whatever platform people want to dive into. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a great place to start thinking about
Yeah.
content. So, how can people find you online? How can they find your courses? Where are all of your online platforms?
Yeah, my website's probably the best one just because everything funnels to there. So empoweredmovement.ca. You can
Okay.
find my courses on there. You can find my YouTube channel on there, my little workbook I have, my Instagram, everything's kind of linked on there. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's at Audriana Physio. And then my YouTube is at Empowered Movement, but I think you just have to search my first and last name to
Mhm.
find it. If you search Empowered Movement, a dance company comes up. So
Fair enough. I will link all of those in the show notes as well because I think, yeah,
amazing.
people will probably want to be able to find you and follow you there, which I would highly recommend they do because your information is incredible.
Thank you.
So, any last thoughts before I ask you the last question that I ask everyone?
Ooh, I don't know if I have thoughts. I feel like I just blacked out for an hour, so that's fun.
Just channeled all the information just came straight through
Yeah,
you.
it
I
just
love
came
it.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, this podcast is great. I think what you're doing is awesome for new physios or physios who kind of want to get more into business. I think it's great that something like this exists for people. So, yeah, there's
Amazing.
my last
Well,
thought.
thank you. Yes, thank you. And yes, it's a labor of love, absolutely. And I thoroughly enjoy doing it. I mean, best part of my day is when I can sit down and have a chat with someone that like I wouldn't necessarily like have an hour with one on one. So I'm really excited to get this out there and for people to learn from you. So thank you. Yeah. The last question I ask everyone is what does a healthy business look like to you? So yeah, I mean, I guess for you through the lens of an online business, what is a healthy online business?
Yeah. So when I'm kind of creating content for my business or I'm doing things for my online business, I kind of ask myself two questions. And I think maybe this will let you know what it means for a healthy business. One is this
Yeah.
bringing me joy? And I mean, obviously, I know we have to do things in business that don't bring us joy. Like, no one really particularly enjoys charting or like doing taxes,
Yeah.
and we have to do those things. But on a day to day scale, like, is what I'm doing bringing me joy? Because if this is something that I want as a business and I want as my lifestyle forever, I want it to feel joyful. So that's kind
Mm.
of one thing to, yeah, healthy business is brings me joy. And the second thing is, does it align with kind of like my core values or the core things that I want in life, essentially. So, I mean,
Mm.
besides accessibility, another big reason I started online is because I genuinely like love being at home. I love just
Yeah.
cuddling with my cat, like being at home, reading a book. Yeah, just being with my husband, whatever. And so the more time I'm in person, the less time I get to just be alone, which is so silly to say as a physio because all we do all day is be around people.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of like a big value to me is just like creativity, being at home, things that are pleasurable, things that feel healthy to me. So things that are helping my physical health, my emotional health, my spiritual health, mental health, all of that. Those are kind of like the four things I really focus on. And so
Mm.
I, yeah, kind of ask myself when I'm like sitting at the end of the month, like this month, was I doing things that aligned with my values? Was it bringing me joy? And just kind of reflecting on that and noticing like, no, actually I scrolled way more than I wanted to, or I felt like way more stressed doing this thing. It didn't really bring me joy. And then how can I kind of monitor that so that it feels healthy and good to me in the long run?
Oh,
So yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. You know, you're absolutely right. Like, I think if I had known going into physio school how energetically demanding working one on one with people is, I may have, like, not that I have any regrets or anything, but I definitely, like it is very energetically demanding to work with people, especially people who have experienced trauma or injuries or are, off work or have had an MVA or whatnot. Um, and so you're absolutely right. I think having an outlet that allows you kind of a little bit more introversion is, even though like putting content out there is like extroverted, but the creation of it is you yourself, right? So
Yeah.
I really resonate with that, and I think it's a really unique opportunity for physios to maybe, um, have something that's not quite as, like, and some people are totally people and want to be around people and are energized by that, but I think as I've gotten older, it's become more energetically demanding for me as well, so I actually really appreciate that, like, lens on it, as it's something that allows you to be at home and a little bit, like, less extroverted, if that's a
Hmm.
value for you, so it's a really unique
Absolutely. Yeah.
lens. That's
Yeah. Every day I'm
huge.
like, why did I like when people ask me what's your dream job, I'm like reading books all day. Like I should have just been a librarian, which I know they do way more than that. But I'm like, why, why did I choose? And don't get me wrong, I too love physio and I love my clients and I love being around people. But I
Yes.
am like, I don't think I realized how introverted I was until I
Yeah.
started working as a physio. And I'm like, yeah, that's like way too many people to talk to in a day. Like
Yeah,
that's just,
right?
it's a lot of energy. And so, yeah, if I can make, you know, a bunch of dollars a month only seeing 2 or 3 clients a day, amazing. I think I would
Yeah.
probably be 100, 150% happy, but yeah, unfortunately, you
Exactly.
gotta
Well, I
see more
think
people to make money.
that was exactly how I felt, as I was like, "Oh, the amount of people I have capacity for in a week is not enough to sustain me financially." And so
Yeah,
unfortunately, there was a certain number of patients that might not get me at my best because I was just energetically drained. So having an
yeah,
outlet like this, I think might be a really great opportunity for physios who don't have the energetic capacity to see a lot of people in a week. So very
yeah,
cool perspective on that. Thank you.
yeah. Whole other podcast episode on, like, the business of physio and why do we need to see this many people a week to make money, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
right? That's a
Yeah,
whole other topic.
yeah,
Adriana, thank
absolutely.
you so much. I really appreciate your time, your like unique perspective, and just your openness to chatting about this, and even like the vulnerability and sharing why you are ending the podcast. And I really appreciate such a fresh take on this. So thank you so much. I think so many people will see a lot of value in this, especially when it comes to starting an online business or content creation. So much gratitude to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's it for this episode of The Health of Business. If you're navigating any of these challenges in your own clinic, know that you're not alone. If you're interested in working together on any of these challenges in your business, head to danielleboyd.ca to learn more about my consulting offerings and to get in touch. Catch you next time on The Health of Business.